Brr, it is a cold one out here today. Feels like February again. But in here, it's nice and warm. "70 degrees, perfect work environment." Well, good morning everybody and welcome back to the farm. Today we're going to be unwinding the strings from the tomato hooks from the wire trellis above, dropping them down to the plants and clipping the plants to the strings. My son's on his way out to help me get this done real quick before he heads off on a backpacking trip. The plants are looking really good. I think they've grown like 4 inches in the last 2 days, maybe 6. It's incredible how fast these things take off as soon as you get them in the perlite and start feeding them the fertilizers that they need for optimal growth. You know, I actually saw a tomato blossom starting to open yesterday. Let me see if I can find that. While I'm looking for that, I will mention that I did order my first beehive yesterday. It'll be shipped out in like 2 days. I think it gets shipped out from Michigan on Monday and will be here the next day. And they will take care of all the pollinating in this greenhouse. Last year, there was a shortage of bees. Maybe not a shortage, but someone was gobbling them all up and they were behind schedule getting their bees raised and boxed and shipped out to growers like me for pollination. But this year, they had plenty of them on hand and I got one coming right away, and I will not have to go along and manually pollinate with a little vibrating toothbrush. But here is a tomato blossom starting to open. Look at that. Just barely. Another day and it'll be all the way opened up. Yeah, it looks like it's starting to happen everywhere. There's another one there. There's another one there. Yeah, they're not far off. So good thing those bees are coming, because these things will all be opened up by Monday, ready for pollination. So these are called tomato hooks. They are pre-wound with a certain amount of string, and I always forget how much string comes on them, because it comes in meters, and they're typically made to last 1 full season. And so it's probably like 30 or 40 feet worth of string, because if you grow these plants for 10, 11, 12 months, they're gonna be probably 40 feet tall. Since we have a shorter growing season on our farm, probably more like 6 months, our plants will be about 25 feet, 20 to 25 feet long when we terminate them. So we're able to get 2 years out of one of these tomato hooks. We get them from AMA Horticulture in Ontario. Here's one that's been dropped, but we had to manually unwind the spool to have enough string to reach the bottom to attach to the plant. But that's only because we're in the 2nd year of using them. When they come new in the box, they have the drop string separate from the main spool of string on this hook. And we just hang them up and the string drops and they're ready to go. So it's nice to be able to get 2 years out of these. So first thing we're gonna do is drop them all, and then we'll come back and clip them after we get them all dropped. One other thing I should mention about dropping these strings. So we want these hooks approximately 16 inches apart. We just guess, but you can tell it's pretty easy to get 16 inches, because that's how far away the plants need to be spaced to have equal spacing between each plant all the way down the row. So we want to drop this string in the middle of the buckets. We don't want it over here. We don't want it over here. We want it in the middle. And the reason why is because this string is going to be slightly pulled to the right to be attached to this plant. So it's going to, this plant will slightly be angled this way, clockwise around the row. If you imagine this row being a circle, we want all the plants to be leaning the same direction. So later on, when they reach the top of the trellis and it's time to unwind the string to drop the plant, to lower it and lean it, it's called the lower and lean method, which we'll be getting into in a later video. We want all the plants to be lowered and leaned the same direction, and we go clockwise. Since everyone that works here is pretty much right-handed, it makes sense for us to go clockwise. So I guess the main reason we do this, starting them off, with a little bit of an angle, a slight lean, is so these plants will be pulled away from each other and not get in each other's way. So this one will be growing a little bit that direction, and this one will be growing a little bit that direction. So it'll kind of look a little bit like an X. It'll allow them to get more sunlight and not get tangled up into each other as they continue to grow. All right, so we grab a hook, unwind a certain amount of string that you think you need to make it to the plant. And let's see what we got here. So we're not going all the way to the ground because then you're wasting string. And we don't even need to go all the way to the bottom of the plant. So about halfway down the plant is all we need. And we're gonna be clipping it to the plant right below a branch, and I'll show that here in a little bit. 615 strings to get lowered, and then 615 to clip. These are the two different styles of hooks that we received over the last several years. You can see how this one has that little extra wire part of the hook swooped out there. That's where the drop string is wound around. Oh, like 2.5 meters or something like that. This one does not. I actually like these better because the drop string is all connected to the tomato hook. On these, the drop string is kind of laid off to the side and it gets tangled up with the other hooks as you're picking up a big handful of them to hang on the trellis. So this style is better. I haven't got these for a couple years, but I definitely will request those next time because I like the way the drop string is wound up on those. Here's a brand new box. I'll show you what I mean about these strings. See how the drop string is kind of laid out in there on top of the hooks? And then there's a layer of cardboard between each row so they don't get too tangled up with each other. So they're not too bad, but I still like this system far better, having the string contained on each individual hook. And there's one other style I didn't show you that we used to use. I think this was called the relens spool system. It's a little easier to, you don't have to take it off the cable or the wire trellis and unwind it like you do the tomato hooks. I think you would just push it up and it would spin a revolution and then lock back into place. So you wouldn't really have to do much except take the weight off and slide it down the cable a little bit. But I believe these were far more expensive. I don't recall exactly how much they were. It's probably been, geez, at least 15 years since we've used these. And there's other systems out there too, but these are the two that we've used. But I still like the tomato hook system better, cheaper, just as easy to use in my opinion. So, yep, we'll stick with the tomato hooks. So these strings are almost 3 feet too long and they tangle up easy. So you gotta be careful doing this. Pull them out of the box and I'm gonna gather up this pile of tomato hooks, maybe with one hand. These hooks were designed to be hung from like a 10, 11, 12 foot trellis. And we only have 7.5 feet on our trellises. So these strings are far too long and they'll hang in the aisleway and you almost trip over them. So we're gonna take this excess string and Gavin has a template string. So we know exactly how long they need to be. Yeah, I'd say that's darn near 3 feet, isn't it?
Yeah.
There we go. It's an extra step of work, but it's better to do it now while they're all together instead of walking down the row and trimming each one individually or letting them hang out in the aisleway and trip over them all season. So there's another bundle ready to hang down that row and that row. So we use these little berry picking totes for not only picking our grape tomatoes, but it works perfect for holding our clips for clipping these tomatoes. So we take our string and our clip. The clip has a little claw in it. and it goes on a string like that. And when it's closed, it can't slide up and down. So the weight of the plant is going to be resting on that claw. That's why it's important to put the clip right under a branch. So this is the plant. The strings on this side of the trellis go to the plant on one in each bucket that's on this side. So it's going to get this one, and then this one, and then that one over here. So we pull the string over. I usually hold between my finger and thumb and use my middle finger to kind of bring the plant over to the string. Put the clip where I want it and snap it shut. That's exactly how we want the look. A little bit of tension on the rope with the string, about the center of the plant up to 2/3 of the plant. And then we're going to put the next clip will go up here that we'll do next week. It's about 10 inches apart between clips. So I'll just do a couple here real quick. So you can see the strings that are on this side of the trellis are going on a plant, one plant in each bucket that's closest to my side. So earlier I mentioned how the strings are going to be in an X-shaped pattern because we're pre-leaning the plants a little bit. So this plant is going to be going that way, and that plant on the other side is going to be going that way. And they'll continue to lean that way in a clockwise direction. So if you see your strings in an X pattern like they are right now, that's what we want. We have carts that we could use. Most of them have flat tires right now, but it's really not that bad. I don't have to be down on my hands and knees like I was. You just got to bend over a little bit. And the first clip or two, you got to bend over, but then we'll be higher up on the string here in a couple weeks. The plants will be up here about chest height. And eventually, you're actually reaching all the way to the top. And then when the plants reach the top, that's when we unwind the spool to drop them. About 1 or 2 revolutions of the spool, just depends how fast they're growing, and then we'll move them into the position where the previous plant was in front of it. But the leaning and lowering method will be discussed in a future video. We'll wait till the plants get to that point, and then I'll explain and demonstrate how that works. Now once we apply a second clip, it'll be safe to remove the bamboo sticks. We don't want to do it now just because there's only one clip on there and there's still a risk of the plant flopping over. So yeah, they're definitely more stabilized once we get a second clip on there. And since we are needing to clip these, down near the middle of the plant or 2/3 up the plant, it won't be long until they need the second clip. I don't even think I'll be able to go a week. So probably in 4, 5, 6 days, I'll be back out here putting the second clip on. But see, it's not too bad of a bend over. I mean, I'm just slightly bending over and not really needed to roll along on a cart. If I was doing more tedious work to the plant where I was spending more time at each plant, then yes, I would want the cart. This isn't bad. This is also a good time to inspect the plants closely for thrip damage. And it won't be long until we start seeing some. I sprayed them about a week ago when they were in the transplant house. But now that they're in this house, I'm sure there's thrips coming to life that have overwintered in plant debris that got left behind when we pulled out last year's crop. So it's only a matter of time before I start seeing thrip damage on here, but I'll just walk up and down the rows with a little handheld pump sprayer or backpack sprayer, and we'll get those things killed, or under control at least. When the crop's fully mature and there's tons of foliage in here, a little handheld sprayer or backpack sprayer is not enough, unless it was a motor-powered backpack sprayer, which I used to have, but I now have a actual motorized sprayer with a hose that unwinds. I'll just show you real quick. And it works great for spraying the entire greenhouse. So yeah, it's just a little 4-cycle motor on here. It has like a 25-gallon tank and 150 foot of hose with this nice hose wand. And I can really cover the greenhouse plants quickly when there's an outbreak of thrips or spider mites. Who is it? Well, there's nobody in here. What are you barking at? She's going nuts. This is my dog Tassie. I think she's freaked out by the strings. She hasn't seen those yet. What's going on, Tass? What are you getting all excited about? Well, as you can see, we have all the stringing done. Clip number 1 is on, and we'll be putting clip number 2 on in less than a week. It's amazing how fast these plants will grow. Several inches a day. Like I mentioned earlier, the bumblebees will be coming soon. We'll discuss a little more detail about the bumblebees when they arrive, and I'll show you the box they come in and kind of what all you got to do to it to get it prepared for being placed in the greenhouse. I feel like we're finally starting to get caught up with all the greenhouse work. We have 3 greenhouses of our 5 up and running now. So we still have this greenhouse to clean up and get ready. The plants are only about, probably 10 days off from being transplanted in there. And we still have our little house, which is a 21 by 96. And plastic needs to be swapped out on that one. But that crop hasn't even been seeded yet. I think we seed it next week. So I still have about 6 weeks to get that one ready. And I've been debating on whether to plant those final 2 rows in the grape greenhouse with more grapes like I've been doing for the last 5 years, or maybe putting determinate field tomatoes in there. What do you guys think? Whether you're a hobby grower or a commercial grower, how do you think determinate field tomatoes will do in coconut core slabs in a greenhouse? I'm assuming they'll do pretty well. It's going to be similar to growing in soil in a high tunnel, I would think, but they'll be getting fed my hydroponic recipe. That's where I don't know how they'll do. Since I don't have an overhead trellis system in there, I would have to do the floor to weave system just like I do on my field tomatoes. That's why I would put determinates in those final 2 rows and not indeterminates. So yeah, I'm thinking about swapping these greenhouses next year. The grapes over to the little house and the little house over to the grape house. Mainly because no one likes picking grape tomatoes. I used to have a couple of ladies that worked for me that just loved picking grape tomatoes. They would stay and pick grape tomatoes all day long if I let them. But the kids despise picking the grape tomatoes. I don't want to pick them. It's kind of the same reason we got out of strawberries. It was harder and harder to find help that wanted to pick strawberries. And then I didn't have enough work for them after strawberry season ended. Grape tomatoes, it's kind of in the same boat. You know, they're only really popular for about 6 weeks. So maybe I'll just do the 4 rows of grape tomatoes in there and trial determinate field tomatoes in those other 2 rows. So yeah, I'm interested and curious what you guys think. It's always fun to experiment a little bit on the farm. Normally we kind of, you get in a rut, you kind of get in a rhythm, and you just keep doing the same thing year after year after year. You maybe tweak things here and there. Things that do really well, you maybe do more of it. Things you don't like or that don't do well, you do a little less of it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna experiment with that this year. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again real soon down on the farm.